We take warmth for granted. A switch, a flame, a system that never fails until it does. When the grid collapses, fuel runs out and the temperature keeps falling. Fire stops being an option. And in that moment, the real test begins. Most people don't realize that cold kills faster than hunger or thirst. But if you can't make heat, you can still keep it. And those who know how don't just endure winter, they outlast the crisis. Cold isn't just a season. It's one of the oldest and most effective forces used against human survival. Throughout history, armies have weaponized winter, governments have crumbled under energy shortages, and cities have descended into chaos when heat failed. And it doesn't take a global war for it to happen again. A cyber attack on the grid, a fuel disruption, or a prolonged winter storm is enough to turn any modern home into an icebox in less than 48 hours. Most Americans aren't ready for that scenario. They prepare for food shortages and supply chain breakdowns, but few think about how quickly hypothermia can set in, how decisively it can strip away strength, and how impossible decision-making becomes when your body starts shutting down. In this video, we'll break down the science of heat loss and the practical methods to stop it. We'll show how to turn your home into a passive thermal shelter, how to use layering and movement to keep your body generating warmth, and how to stay functional when the temperature outside becomes lethal. Because this isn't just about comfort, it's about preserving the one resource you cannot live without: heat. And if you want clear strategic analysis like this without the hype, subscribe to Safety Zone. Before we talk about survival tactics, we need to understand what we're actually fighting and why stopping heat loss is more important than producing heat in the first place. Most people think staying warm is about adding heat, more layers, more fuel, more fire. But the real battle is not about generating warmth. It's about keeping what you already have from escaping. And to do that, you need to understand the three ways your body loses heat: conduction, convection, and radiation. Conduction is direct transfer. It happens when your body touches something colder than itself, the ground, metal, concrete, and your heat flows into it. Think of it like pouring water into a sponge. It drains away fast. Convection is heat loss through moving air or water. Wind strips warmth from your skin faster than still air, and wet clothing accelerates that loss even more. That's why hypothermia sets in much faster in windy, wet conditions than in cold, dry ones. Radiation is the constant release of heat from your body into the surrounding environment, even without contact. It's like the glow from a cooling ember, invisible but steady. Together, these three mechanisms work against you every second you're exposed to the cold. Left unchecked, they pull warmth out of your body faster than you can replace it. And once your core temperature drops just a few degrees, your muscles weaken, your judgment falters, and your body's ability to keep itself alive starts to fail. That's why every survival plan, whether in a blackout, a storm, or an outdoor emergency, must begin here. Because if you don't understand how heat escapes, every other strategy is just guesswork. In a moment, we'll see how to turn that knowledge into practical defenses, starting with the space you rely on most, your home. Now that you understand how heat escapes, the first and most important battleground is inside your home. Because when the grid goes down and the furnace falls silent, every room stops being a comfort zone and starts leaking warmth like a punctured tank. Your mission is simple but strategic. Shrink the space you need to heat, slow down the air that steals your warmth, and trap as much radiant energy as possible inside. The first move is choosing your stronghold. Pick one small interior room, a compact bedroom, a walk-in closet, even a bathroom, where walls share heat with adjacent spaces and windows are minimal. Why? Because in a smaller volume, every degree you generate matters more, and even your own body becomes part of the heating system. Once you've chosen it, seal it like a winter survival tent. Roll towels into door gaps to block drafts, press blankets or plastic sheeting tightly over windows, and close every other door in the house to keep warm air from drifting away. If you want to level up, hang a heavy curtain in the hallway outside your chosen room to create a makeshift airlock, a barrier that keeps warm air from escaping every time you enter or exit. This works because of a simple but powerful principle called the stack effect. Warm air naturally rises and escapes through high gaps, while cold air creeps in low. Block those pathways, and you slow the heat loss dramatically. Windows are your weakest walls, so they need extra defense. Thick curtains trap a layer of insulating air. Bubble wrap pressed directly onto the glass adds another barrier, and a reflective emergency blanket or aluminum foil layer on the inside can push radiant heat back toward you. Think of it as building a mirror for your warmth, one that reflects it inward instead of letting it vanish into the cold night. Floors and walls are also silent thieves of heat through conduction, so build soft barriers wherever you plan to sit or sleep. Lay down rugs, mattresses, or folded blankets to insulate from the ground, and use furniture like bookshelves or wardrobes against exterior walls to add mass and slow thermal transfer. You can take this even further by building a microclimate inside your chosen room. Set up a camping tent indoors or hang blankets from ceiling to floor to create a smaller cocoon where the temperature rises faster. In a crisis, several people in a confined space act like small heaters, and that shared warmth can make a life or death difference. Every tool and habit now becomes tactical. Keep lights dim and shaded so you don't broadcast power or presence. If you can safely heat water on a functioning stove, pour it into sturdy bottles, wrap them in cloth, and place them near your core or feet to create portable, safe heat reservoirs. But never, under any circumstances, use open flames or fuel-burning heaters in a sealed room. Carbon monoxide is odorless, invisible, and fatal. Support the system from within. Fuel your internal furnace with frequent high-calorie snacks. Keep your base layers dry, and rotate clothing if it gets damp. Moist fabric robs heat from your skin faster than cold air ever could. And think like a strategist. Open curtains briefly when the sun hits the windows to harvest free solar heat, then seal everything again before it escapes. Ventilate the space just long enough to release humidity before resealing. These details may feel small, but together they transform a freezing house into a self-sustaining thermal refuge. And while this works when you're home, the real challenge begins when you're not. Because if the blackout catches you in a car or on the move, the battlefield changes completely, even if the physics stays the same. The same laws of physics that shape how you defend your home still apply the moment you step outside, but once you're in the open, the environment stops forgiving mistakes. If a blackout catches you on the road, or circumstances force you to evacuate, your mission shifts from building a shelter to transforming whatever space you have into a controlled thermal zone. Your vehicle isn't just transportation anymore. It's potentially your most effective survival capsule if you know how to use it. Think of the cabin as the warm room you built back home. Stay inside whenever possible because exposure to wind multiplies convection, stripping heat from your body at a dangerous rate. Block any draft you feel with spare clothing, floor mats, or pieces of fabric pressed into gaps around doors and vents. Use the floor instead of the seats for rest or sleep, because warm air tends to collect lower down. And remember, proximity is power. Huddle close with others if you're not alone, because shared body heat can raise the cabin temperature several degrees even in sub-zero conditions. If you need to run the engine for heat, do it strategically. 10 to 15 minutes every hour is usually enough to maintain a safe temperature. But always check that the exhaust pipe is free of snow or debris before starting the car. Carbon monoxide is odorless and invisible, but it kills fast, and idling in an enclosed space is a deadly mistake. If you're stranded, signal for help by tying a bright cloth to the antenna or door handle, and resist the instinct to walk away unless rescue is clearly within sight. A vehicle is much easier to find than a single person on foot, and abandoning it too soon is one of the most common fatal errors in winter emergencies. Preparation turns this from a desperate situation into a manageable one. Every vehicle should carry a winter survival kit, thermal blankets, spare gloves and hats, water stored in insulated containers, calorie-dense food, a flashlight with extra batteries, and a small shovel. Chemical hand warmers are light, cheap, and critical for protecting extremities, the parts of your body that lose heat first and fastest. Surviving outside a vehicle is harder, but not impossible if you know how to work with the environment instead of against it. The ground is your biggest enemy because it conducts heat away from you relentlessly. So always place an insulating barrier between yourself and the earth. Clothing, leaves, branches, even a backpack. Build a simple windbreak using rocks, snow, or debris to cut down on air movement and reduce convective heat loss. If you need to rest, curl into a compact position to minimize surface area and conserve warmth. Movement generates heat, but it also burns energy and risks sweating, and moisture is one of the fastest ways to lose body heat. If your clothes get wet, your risk of hypothermia skyrockets. Whenever possible, choose high ground or natural shelters like tree lines, boulders, or slopes that block wind and create microclimates with slightly warmer air. These small choices can mean the difference between maintaining your core temperature and watching it slip dangerously low. And remember this, outside, the cold is not actively attacking you. It's waiting for you to make a mistake. Every careless move, every drop of sweat, every unnecessary step gives it an opening. Your mission is to deny it those chances. In the next part, we'll focus on the most powerful heat source you will ever have, the one built into your own body, and how to turn it into an active defense against the cold. All the shelters, insulation, and gear in the world mean little if you fail to control the most powerful heater you already own, your own body. Everything you've done so far to stop heat loss becomes exponentially more effective when your internal furnace is running at peak efficiency. And understanding how to do that can make the difference between enduring a long winter night and becoming another statistic. The first step is mastering clothing, not just wearing more of it, but using it strategically. Most people believe fabric itself keeps them warm, but in reality, what protects you is the air trapped between layers. That's why proper layering is one of the most powerful survival tools you have. Start with a base layer that wicks moisture away from your skin. Synthetic materials or merino wool are ideal because they pull sweat outward instead of holding it close. On top of that, add an insulating layer like fleece or down to trap warm air near your body. Finally, seal it all with an outer shell that blocks wind and water, stopping convection and keeping external moisture from soaking through. Skip one of these layers and the system collapses. Too little insulation and you lose heat. A poor base layer and evaporating sweat cools you rapidly. No outer shell and wind will strip warmth from your body no matter how many layers you wear. But insulation is only part of the equation. Movement is another powerful tool and a dangerous one if mismanaged. Physical activity generates heat, but too much movement causes sweat, and evaporation pulls heat away faster than you can produce it. The goal is controlled effort, enough to warm muscles and keep blood circulating, not enough to soak your clothes. If you feel sweat forming, slow your pace or remove a layer before it builds up. Even your breathing affects heat retention. Rapid, shallow breaths lose warmth through moisture and airflow, while slow, deep breathing conserves it. The way you rest matters too. Curling into a compact fetal position reduces surface area and slows heat loss, while lying directly on the ground accelerates conduction and drains your warmth. Always create a barrier, even spare clothes or a folded jacket, between yourself and the ground. Fuel is another overlooked part of the equation. Your body needs energy to create heat, and regular high-calorie food is like wood for a fire. Small, frequent meals keep that fire burning steadily. Hydration is just as crucial. Dehydration reduces circulation, slows metabolism, and weakens your heat production. A well-fed, well-hydrated body runs hotter and lasts longer. Think of yourself as a thermal engine. The right layers, the right pace, the right fuel, and the right recovery all keep that engine burning clean and strong. And when your body's heat production is optimized, every other tactic you've learned, from insulation to shelter, multiplies in effectiveness. But even with a perfectly tuned body, one final factor still decides whether you endure the cold or fall victim to it: the state of your mind. Because in a freezing crisis, the wrong decision can kill you long before the temperature does. Even if your body is well protected and producing heat efficiently, survival in the cold can still fail for one simple reason: your mind. The cold doesn't just drain your strength, it slowly rewires how you think, how you make decisions, and how much you care about making them at all. This is why many cold-related deaths don't happen because the environment overwhelms the body, but because the brain makes a fatal mistake. The first and most dangerous symptom is apathy. As your core temperature drops, even slightly, your body begins to conserve energy by prioritizing essential functions. That often means a drop in motivation, slower thinking, and a powerful urge to stop moving, stop problem solving, or even lie down and rest. It feels harmless, but it's one of the earliest signs of hypothermia and one of the deadliest. Confusion follows close behind. Cold impairs cognitive function, making it harder to assess risk, remember basic steps, or notice changing conditions. Tasks you could easily perform in normal circumstances, tying knots, lighting a stove, navigating a trail, can become clumsy or impossible. The key to countering this mental decline is awareness and active intervention. Recognize early warning signs like slowed speech, fumbling hands, or irrational decisions. If you or someone with you starts to show them, act immediately. Increase movement to boost circulation, consume calories to fuel the brain, and get to shelter or insulation fast. Another vital element is routine. Pre-planned checklists and mental rehearsals can anchor your actions when your judgment starts to falter. Pilots, mountaineers, and special forces all use this method. When the environment overwhelms the mind, pre-programmed decisions take over. The environment may be chaotic, but your plan remains stable. Staying mentally active is just as important as staying physically active. Talking out loud, reviewing your next steps, or even setting small time-based tasks keeps your brain engaged and less likely to slip into hypothermic apathy. And never underestimate the psychological dimension of hope. A clear goal, reaching a shelter, checking on someone, completing a countdown, gives your mind a direction to follow, even when clarity fades. The cold is patient. It doesn't break you suddenly. It erodes your ability to resist one small decision at a time. Your best defense is to train the mind to recognize that erosion before it goes too far. Because in a survival situation, the right choice made at the right moment can matter more than any piece of gear. In the final part of this analysis, we'll shift from immediate response to preparation, what you should do now while conditions are calm to make sure you're ready when the cold comes for real. Mental strength can save your life in the moment, but the smartest survival decisions are made long before the temperature drops. Preparation is not just about collecting gear, it's about designing systems, small, deliberate choices that turn chaos into a sequence you can manage. The most effective defenses against the cold are built in advance, when you still have time, energy, and clarity to plan. Start with a winter survival kit and treat it as essential, not optional. At home, this means having layers of backup insulation ready. Heavy curtains, rolls of plastic sheeting, duct tape, and spare blankets. None of these require large investments, but together they can turn a drafty room into a thermal barrier in minutes. Keep a supply of chemical hand and body warmers. They're lightweight, cheap, and store for years. Store high-calorie, non-perishable food that fuels your body's heat production and plenty of water, because dehydration accelerates hypothermia. Your vehicle should have its own version of this kit: thermal blankets, extra clothing, a sleeping bag rated for sub-zero conditions, a flashlight with spare batteries, a small folding shovel, and basic signaling tools like reflective tape or a whistle. A metal cup or small stove for melting snow can be the difference between dehydration and survival if you're stranded. Prepping goes beyond supplies. Build knowledge into your plan. Practice sealing a room, layering clothing properly, and setting up an emergency shelter before you need to. These skills, once learned, become automatic under stress, and automatic actions save time when every minute counts. Another critical step is maintenance. Regularly check insulation in your home, ensure windows and doors are properly sealed, and service your vehicle's heating and battery system before winter begins. Even small upgrades like weather stripping or insulated window film can reduce heat loss dramatically. Think about your environment strategically too. Identify safe fallback locations if your home becomes uninhabitable, map routes to friends, family, or shelters, and plan how you would transport supplies quickly in freezing conditions. Preparation is not paranoia, it's removing variables from an uncertain future. And the more variables you eliminate now, the more control you have when the unexpected happens. Every piece of gear, every skill, every plan you make before the crisis multiplies your chances of surviving it. And when the cold finally arrives, that work will mean the difference between reacting desperately and acting deliberately. In the final part of this video, we'll bring everything together and show why mastering heat isn't just about surviving winter, it's about mastering one of the most powerful forces on Earth. Fire has kept humanity alive for thousands of years, but knowledge is what allowed us to endure when fire wasn't an option. In a world where a single cyber attack can collapse a power grid, where geopolitical conflicts can choke fuel supply lines, and where extreme weather events are becoming both more frequent and more severe, the question isn't whether winter will come, it's whether we're ready when it does. Modern society is built on the illusion that warmth is guaranteed. We heat entire buildings with a switch, cross frozen landscapes in climate-controlled vehicles, and rarely think about how fragile those systems really are. Yet history shows us how quickly that comfort can vanish. Cities that seemed untouchable have fallen into darkness after a grid failure. Wars have been won or lost, not by armies, but by weather. And every year, lives are lost in wealthy nations not because resources were lacking, but because knowledge was. The lesson is simple. In an age where infrastructure can be weaponized and climate itself is unpredictable, heat becomes more than a matter of comfort. It's a strategic asset. The most powerful warmth is not the fire you light in a crisis, but the heat you never let escape in the first place. If you understand how to hold on to it, through preparation, discipline, and strategy, you turn one of nature's oldest threats into something you can manage, even outsmart. And that is what real resilience looks like. And if knowledge is the real shield against the cold, then preparation starts now, long before the first snow falls or the lights go out. So tell us, what's the first step you would take today to prepare for a winter blackout? Share it in the comments, because your idea might be the one that helps someone else survive when the cold comes for real.